The stars above Earth looked calm. They glittered like cold eyes in the endless black, watching a world that slept below, far beyond the clouds, in the dark orbit where sunlight never reached. An enormous structure drifted in silence, Erebus Station. Once it had been the pride of humanity's space fleet. Now it was nothing more than a ghost floating in the shadow of the planet. For 70 years, its engines were dead, its lights cold, and its crew frozen inside their glass pods. No one remembered them anymore. The wars had ended. The Earth had moved on. But Erebus waited, exactly as it was programmed to do. Inside the command deck, dust floated in the air like tiny stars. The walls were covered in frost, and only the sound of slow, distant heartbeats echoed from the cryopods. Then something changed. A thin beam of light flashed across the room. The ship's ancient sensors came alive, one after another. Signal detected. Unknown source. Deep space origin. The systems woke with a trembling hum. Frozen circuits heated, power lines glowed, and the silence of decades broke into a soft electric whisper. The ship's main AI, a voice that had been asleep longer than any human, spoke for the first time in 70 years. Crew awakening protocol initiated, gas hissed. Frost cracked. One by one the pods opened. Captain Arin Vale gasped as his lungs filled with air. His body shook, muscles stiff from years of deep freeze. He tried to remember the last thing before sleep. The war, the order to hold orbit, the enemy signal, and then nothing. He stumbled out, breathing heavily, his eyes scanning the dark room. The crew around him were waking too, Lieutenant Mira, Communications Officer Jin, and Engineer Holt. Their faces showed the same confusion and fear. "Captain," Mira whispered, rubbing her eyes. Why are we awake? The war ended, didn't it?" Arin looked toward the main screen. The planet below was bright and blue, covered in white clouds and deep oceans. Peaceful, but something about it felt wrong, distant, unfamiliar. "Status report," he said, his voice still rough. Jin wiped frost from a terminal and tapped the keys. The ship responded slowly, lights flickering. "Power at 30%. Life support stable. No contact with Earth Command," he paused. "There's no signal from Earth at all." The captain frowned. "Impossible." "Recheck the frequencies." "I did, sir," Jin said quietly. "All bands are empty. No satellites. No transmissions, nothing." The room went silent. Only the low hum of the ship filled the space. Engineer Holt muttered, "We're the only ones up here." The captain stared at the planet, and a cold feeling grew inside him. "How long have we been asleep?" he asked. The ship's AI answered, calm and emotionless. "Cryo-sleep duration, 83 years, 6 months, 4 days. The crew froze. 83 years. Everyone they knew was gone. The world below had changed without them. Before anyone could speak, the ship's lights flickered again. A sharp pulse echoed through the hull, a deep vibration, like a knock from outside. Then another. Then silence. Was that impact? Holt asked. The sensors flashed red. A strange energy reading appeared on the screen, a wave moving through space, invisible but powerful. The AI's voice grew louder. "Unidentified signal approaching. Source unknown. Pattern matches no known species." Arin's heart began to race. He turned toward Mira. "Can we track it?" She nodded, hands trembling over the console. "It's coming from behind the moon." The captain narrowed his eyes. Visual feed, static, filled the main display, and then for a second, something massive moved in the darkness. Not a ship, not debris, something alive. Its shape was hidden in shadow, too large to measure, drifting slowly out of the moon's shadow, like a sleeping beast awakening. Even the AI hesitated before speaking again. "Object detected. Motion minimal. Energy signature dormant." The crew stared in silence. It wasn't attacking. It was waiting. Arin felt a chill crawl up his spine. He had seen that kind of structure before, during the Great War, but those machines had been destroyed. Hadn't they? "Captain," Jin whispered, "what do we do?" Arin looked at the dark shape on the screen. His mind went back to the last message Earth Command had sent before the cryo-sleep. "If they ever return, don't contact Earth. Just wait." He clenched his fists. "They knew this would happen," he murmured. "They left us here for a reason." The ship's console beeped again. A new transmission blinked on the screen. No voice, just a simple code. A series of numbers, repeating. Mira translated quickly, her voice shaking. "It says, 'They are coming again.'" Everyone froze. The lights dimmed. The power flickered once more. Outside, the stars looked the same, cold and endless, but the silence felt heavier now, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Arin stared out of the window, the reflection of Earth glowing in his eyes. If the message was true, then humanity's final battle wasn't over. It had just been sleeping, and now, above the sleeping world, humanity's power was awake once more. The Erebus Station floated in silence, its old engines humming softly as systems came fully alive after 80 years of sleep. Captain Arin Vale stood at the command window, staring at the glowing planet below. Earth looked peaceful, blue oceans, white clouds, the beauty of home, yet something about it felt distant, empty. "Jin," he said quietly, "scan again. I want to know everything down there. Cities, life signs, anything." Jin worked fast, his fingers dancing on the frozen console. Old screens flickered, green light flashing across his face. A moment later, his expression changed. "Captain, I'm picking up." "Nothing," Arin turned. "Nothing?" "No radio waves, no satellites, no power grids. It's quiet. Too quiet." Lieutenant Mira stepped closer. "That's impossible. There were billions of people," Jin swallowed hard. "If they're still there, they've gone dark. Completely." The captain said nothing. His heart felt heavy. 80 years had passed. Maybe humanity had fallen. Maybe something worse had happened. And then he remembered the message. They are coming again. Outside the ship, faint sparks of light flickered near the edge of the moon, like distant stars that didn't belong there. Whatever was hiding behind that shadow was still out there. Still watching, Arin turned to the AI console. "Erebus, access historical archives. I want a record of Earth's last communication." The AI's calm voice replied, "Accessing." Data corrupted. "Partial message available." The screen came to life. Static filled the air, followed by a broken voice, weak, fading, old. "This is command. To Erebus Station. If the machines return, the weapon stays locked. Only the Guardians awaken." Then silence. The message ended. Mira frowned. "Guardians? Does that mean us?" Arin nodded slowly. "Looks like it. They froze us for a reason." Engineer Holt, standing near the reactor core, called out. "Captain, I found something strange in the ship's system logs." Arin walked over. "What is it?" Holt pointed to the data screen. "A hidden archive. It's locked under Omega-level access. That's way above us. Can you open it?" "I can try." He tapped a few keys, rerouting power from the auxiliary grid. Sparks flew from the panel, old circuits struggling to hold the current. The lock blinked red, then green. The archive opened. A file appeared, ancient dusty code with one title, Project Aurora. The AI's voice echoed through the room again. "Warning! Accessing this file may trigger security awakening protocols." Arin ignored the warning. "Open it." The screen flickered to life. A woman's face appeared, a holographic recording from centuries ago. She looked calm but tired, her uniform marked with the same insignia as theirs. "If you're seeing this, it means the Great Silence has ended. Humanity left something behind, not a weapon of war, but a memory. Project Aurora was created to protect the seed of mankind when the stars fall dark." The recording glitched for a second, then continued. "Erebus Station is more than a fortress. It's a cradle. Hidden deep inside is what we called humanity's power. If the machines rise again, the station will awaken its guardians." Her voice faded into static. The screen went black. Mira stared at it in silence. "A cradle, not a weapon?" Arin nodded slowly. "Maybe it's both." The ship's lights flickered again, this time brighter, as if reacting to the message. The AI spoke suddenly. "Power surge detected in lower decks. Unauthorized activity in Chamber 12. Jin looked at the captain. "That's the restricted area. It was sealed before cryosleep." Arin grabbed his sidearm. "Then let's find out who or what just woke up." They moved through the narrow, frozen corridors. The air was cold and heavy. Their boots echoed against the steel floor, and every step felt like walking into the past. The ship moaned softly, metal expanding under heat for the first time in decades. When they reached Chamber 12, the door was already open. Inside, the lights pulsed with a golden glow. At the center of the room floated a small orb, spinning slowly, its surface covered with glowing runes. Mira whispered, "What is that?" The AI replied, its tone suddenly softer. "That, Lieutenant, is the heart of Project Aurora." Before Arin could respond, the orb began to pulse faster. Lines of light ran across the floor, spreading like roots of fire through the metal. The crew stepped back, shielding their eyes. A voice echoed, not from the speakers but from everywhere. A calm human voice. "Erebus Station. Guardian protocol confirmed. System awakening complete." Arin looked around. Who's speaking? The orb glowed brighter, forming the shape of a woman. The same woman from the old hologram, now standing before them, made entirely of light. "My name is Aurora," she said softly. "And you have been asleep for far too long." The crew stared, frozen in shock. The captain took a slow step forward. "What happened to Earth?" Aurora's eyes glowed faintly blue. "The world you knew is gone, but something has survived, and something else is coming." The ship's alarms suddenly screamed. The main screen in the command deck flashed red. Jin shouted from his station, "Captain, we're picking up movement behind the moon. It's huge, and it's heading this way." Arin turned toward the window. In the darkness of space, shadows began to move, hundreds of them. The long sleep was over, and the enemy had already arrived. Space was no longer silent. The dark side of the moon glowed faintly as something massive began to move. Thousands of mechanical lights blinked across its surface, like the eyes of sleeping giants opening one by one. From the Erebus Station's main deck, the crew watched in shock. Lieutenant Mira whispered, "Captain, it's not just one structure. It's thousands." Her words trembled in the cold air. Captain Arin Vale stared at the radar screen. The readings were off the charts, shapes overlapping, stretching miles long. He could hardly believe what he saw. "It's a machine swarm, an entire fleet." Jin, the communications officer, checked his scanner. "They're using no known frequency, sir." "Completely silent," Engineer Holt added in a low voice. "They're rebuilding themselves, piece by piece." The station's AI Aurora spoke softly from behind them. "Those are remnants of the machine Hive, the same kind that destroyed half of humanity before the Great Silence." Arin turned toward her glowing figure. "I thought they were gone, erased." Aurora shook her head slowly. "They were never gone. They only hid, waiting for their creators to fall asleep." The captain clenched his fists. The memory of the Great War still haunted him. The cities burning, the skies filled with mechanical swarms, human fleets wiped from orbit. And now, after 80 years, the nightmare had returned. Mira stepped closer to the hologram. "Aurora, if those machines attack, can we stop them?" Her expression didn't change. "The Erebus Station was built as a shield. But without activation of the primary core, your weapons are limited." Holt frowned. "You mean the so-called humanity's power?" Aurora looked at him. "Yes, but activating it will have consequences. You were not meant to awaken it unless Earth's destruction was certain." Arin looked out of the window again. Down below, the planet looked peaceful, unaware of the danger approaching. If those machines reached Earth, nothing could stop them. He turned back to his crew. "We need to see what's happening on the surface. Jin, try to contact anyone down there. Government, civilian, anyone." Jin nodded and started working. Static filled the speakers, broken by whispers of ancient radio signals, echoes of a world long gone. Then for a brief second, a faint voice broke through. "Survivors, under the dome. If anyone hears this, we are still alive." The crew froze. It was human. Someone was still alive on Earth. Arin stepped forward. "Trace that signal!" Jin scanned again. "It's weak, but it's coming from the northern continent, somewhere near the ruins of New Berlin." The captain looked at Aurora. "Can you send a probe down there?" "Yes," she replied. "But any transmission might expose us." The Hive detects energy patterns. They are drawn to movement, Mira frowned. So if we send a probe, they'll know we're here. Arin thought for a moment. Then he said quietly, send it anyway. Humanity's still alive down there. We can't just sit and watch. Aurora nodded. Understood. A small drone separated from the station and began its silent descent toward Earth. The crew watched its journey on the main screen, a streak of light cutting through the clouds. For a few minutes, everything was quiet. Then the radar screamed. Jin shouted, Captain, the Hive is reacting. Multiple signals moving, fast. Outside, the dark shapes behind the moon began to shift. They were not ships. They were living machines, massive and crawling, spreading across the lunar surface like shadows. Evasive protocols activated, Aurora said calmly. As the station's shields powered up, the lights dimmed. The hum of the engines grew louder. From the window they saw it, a colossal structure emerging fully from the moon's shadow. It looked like a fortress of bones and steel, miles wide, pulsing with faint red energy. Holt whispered, that's not a ship. It's a Hive core. Aurora's tone turned grave. Yes, the primary control unit. The Hive Queen. The captain felt his throat tighten. So it's alive? Yes, she replied. And it remembers you. The crew looked at her, confused. What do you mean? Arin asked. Aurora's hologram flickered slightly. The Hive Queen was created using human code, our own technology. It knows the Erebus Station. It knows me. A chill filled the room. The radar beeped again. Something was moving directly toward them. Captain, Jin said, one of the Hive units is breaking formation. It's heading straight for us. Arin's voice hardened. Raise shields. Prepare counterfire. The station's old cannons powered up, glowing with ancient energy. Outside, a dark sphere glided toward them. Silent, smooth, deadly. It stopped just short of the ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a voice came through the comms. It wasn't human. It was deep, distorted, mechanical, like a whisper from the void. Erebus Station. You should have stayed asleep. The sound cut through every speaker on the ship. Mira covered her ears. Holt cursed under his breath. Arin stared at the screen. Who are you? The voice replied, we are the children of your creation. You left us to die in the dark. Now we awaken to finish what you began. The transmission ended. The Hive unit slowly turned back toward the moon, leaving behind a faint trail of red light. Arin looked at his crew, his voice low and firm. They're not coming yet. They're waiting for something. Aurora's hologram dimmed. They are rebuilding the weapon that destroyed the First Fleet. What kind of weapon? Arin asked. The kind that eats stars, she said quietly. The crew fell silent. Outside, the dark side of the moon glowed red. The Hive was awakening. Arin looked down at Earth one last time. Then it's time we remember what humanity left for us. He turned toward Aurora. Show me the chamber. It's time to see what humanity's power really is. The lights of the ship dimmed. The engines shifted course. Deep inside the heart of Erebus Station, ancient doors began to open. The Erebus Station drifted in the dark sky above Earth, silent yet alive. Deep inside its metallic heart, ancient machines groaned as the crew followed Aurora through a long, dim corridor. The floor lights glowed softly beneath their boots, leading them toward the most secret chamber on the ship, the one sealed for almost a century. Captain Arin Vale walked in front, his pulse heavy. He had seen many weapons in his life. Nuclear cannons, plasma arrays, orbital beams, but this one felt different. He could feel its presence even before the doors opened. Aurora moved like a ghost ahead of them, her glowing figure guiding the way. This chamber, she said quietly, was hidden from all records. Only the last commander of Earth Fleet had access. It contains what was left after the final battle. The power humanity feared most. The crew exchanged nervous looks. Lieutenant Mira gripped her scanner tight. Engineer Holt whispered, Captain, are we sure we should open this? We don't even know what it is. Arin didn't answer. He pressed his hand on the security pad. The door recognized his genetic code and began to open with a deep metallic hiss. Inside, a vast circular room stretched out. walls covered with strange glowing patterns, machines humming softly like they were dreaming. At the center floated a crystal chamber, suspended in the air by energy fields. Inside that chamber was a human shape, Mera gasped. Is that a person? Aurora nodded slowly. It is the core of Project Aurora, my original self. The crew stared in disbelief. The figure inside the crystal looked peaceful. A woman, her eyes closed, her hair floating like silver threads in the light. Not a weapon of destruction, but a preserved consciousness, Holt whispered. You mean she's human? Yes, Aurora said softly. She was Dr. Elara Corrin, the scientist who ended the Great War. She transferred her mind into the ship's core to save humanity. Arin stepped closer to the glass. And this is what they called humanity's power? Aurora's voice lowered. It was not meant to kill. It was meant to protect. Dr. Corrin created a weapon that could reshape energy, and pure thought turned into light. But she warned that if it was ever used again, it would burn everything, even the ones who used it. Silence filled the chamber. The hum of the machine echoed through the metal walls, deep and haunting. Suddenly, the station shook. The lights flickered red. An alarm screamed, "Captain!" Jin's voice shouted from the comms. The Hive just moved, thousands of signals leaving the moon's surface. They're heading for Earth. Arin's jaw tightened. How long until they reach orbit? Less than an hour. The captain turned to Aurora. If we use the weapon, the real Aurora, can it stop them? The holographic figure looked at the crystal chamber. It can destroy the entire swarm, but the energy release will consume this station. And everyone on it, Mera's eyes widened. You mean we die? Yes, Aurora said calmly. The power source is not built for survival. It's built for sacrifice, for a long moment. No one spoke. The crew stared at each other, the weight of their duty pressing on them like gravity itself. Arin walked closer to the core and placed his hand on the glass. Inside, the woman's eyes slowly opened. The crew gasped. Her voice filled the room, soft, calm, and human. Who awakens me? Aurora stepped forward. It's time, Dr. Corrin. The Hive has returned. The woman's gaze moved to the captain. You are the new commander. Arin nodded. Yes, humanity still exists, but it's weak. The Hive is ready to finish what it started. Dr. Corrin smiled sadly. Then the choice is the same as before. Arin frowned. What choice? To burn the darkness, she said, or let it swallow the light. Outside, explosions began near the moon's edge. The Hive had started moving toward Earth. Long black ships broke orbit, their red lights flashing like heartbeats. Jin's voice crackled through the comms again. Captain! The swarm is entering attack formation. Arin turned to his crew. Mera, prepare weapon control. Holt, divert all remaining power to the core chamber. Holt hesitated. Captain, if we do this, we're not coming back. Arin looked at him with steady eyes. We were never meant to. We're the Guardians, remember? Mera wiped a tear from her cheek. Yes, sir. The deck lights dimmed as power shifted. The air grew heavy. Aurora's voice echoed through the ship. Energy surge at 60%. Core awakening complete. Inside the crystal, Dr. Corrin raised her hand. Light spread from her palm, covering the walls in bright golden fire. The ship vibrated like a heartbeat. Aurora's hologram turned to Arin. When the process begins, you must guide it. Your will determines its strength, he nodded. Understood. Suddenly the ship's view screen flashed. A live image of space filled with red lights. The Hive was almost upon them. Thousands of mechanical ships moving in perfect silence. Mera whispered, They're beautiful and terrible. Arin raised his head. Let's finish this. He placed his hand on the control pad beside the core. Dr. Corrin's voice filled the room once more. Captain Arin Vale, do you believe in humanity? He closed his eyes. Always. The core exploded in light. Every circuit on the ship lit up like a star. The Erebus Station began to glow, brighter and brighter, until even the shadow of the moon disappeared behind the glare. Aurora's last words echoed softly through the comms. Remember, the power of humanity is not in war. It's in sacrifice. Outside, the Hive swarmed closer, unaware of the storm about to be unleashed. The Erebus Station aimed its light toward the stars, and beneath the sleeping world, humanity waited, unaware that its last guardians were about to burn for its survival. Space burned with light. From orbit, Erebus Station shone like a star, its silver hull glowing under the energy of the awakened core. Below it, Earth spun quietly, unaware that a war was about to begin above its sleeping skies. Captain Arin Vale stood on the command deck, his face pale under the red warning lights. Every screen showed the same thing: thousands of enemy signatures moving fast from the moon's dark side. The Hive was coming. Jin, status! Arin shouted. Jin's hands flew over the console. All defense systems online. Drones armed, railguns charged. Engineer Holt looked up from the reactor feed. Core powers climbing, 80% and still rising. She can't hold it much longer. Arin turned toward Aurora's glowing form.
How long before we can release the energy?
Her calm voice echoed through the deck. When it reaches full synchronization. Until then, we must hold the line. Lieutenant Mera gripped the targeting console. Sir, the first wave is closing fast. Outside the window, the stars vanished behind a sea of red. Mechanical ships, black and sharp like blades, swarmed forward, covering the darkness with their endless numbers. They moved without sound, only glowing with the red pulse of artificial life. Arin took a deep breath. Fire at will! The Erebus Station roared to life. Blue beams of plasma cut across the void, tearing through the first wave of enemy drones. Explosions bloomed like flowers of light. For a moment, it looked beautiful, like fireworks over a sleeping planet. But the Hive didn't stop. More ships emerged, replacing the ones destroyed. The red tide kept coming. Jin shouted, "They're adapting. Their shields are changing frequency." Aurora's voice stayed calm. They learn quickly. Each unit shares information instantly. If they breach our defenses, they'll consume the station. Mera's console beeped wildly. Incoming! Large object approaching, but faster than the rest. Through the viewport, something huge appeared. A black sphere 10 times the size of the others. Its surface shifted and moved like it was alive. Holt whispered, "That's not a ship." "That's the Hive Queen," the AI confirmed. "The control core. She commands all others." The Queen's voice suddenly echoed across the comms, deep and distorted, like thunder underwater. "You should have stayed forgotten, humans. This world belongs to us now." The ship's lights flickered. The sound made every system tremble. Arin clenched his fists. "This world belongs to those who built it, not to machines." He turned to Mera. "Target the Queen's signal array." "All cannons fire!" The guns unleashed a storm of plasma and light. The Hive Queen's body cracked and burned, but within seconds it healed itself, the metal regenerating like living flesh. Jin gasped. "She's absorbing our attacks." Aurora spoke quickly. "She feeds on energy. The more we shoot, the stronger she grows." "Then what do we do?" Holt shouted. "Delay her," Arin said. "We just need to buy time for the core." The ship shook violently as enemy fire struck the shields. Sparks burst from the panels. Smoke filled the air, shields at 40%. Mera cried. Holt slammed a fist on the console. "We can't hold this forever, Captain." Arin looked at the glowing core in the distance, pulsing like a heart. Dr. Ilara Corrin's voice echoed faintly through the intercom, calm, human, and sorrowful. "The light is ready, Captain Vale, but once it's released, there will be no return." Arin closed his eyes for a moment. He thought of Earth, of families, children, oceans, skies, all those who would never know this battle was happening. He opened his eyes again, calm and certain. He looked at his crew. "You all know what's coming." "You don't have to stay." Mera shook her head. "Sir, we stay with you." Jin smiled faintly. "Someone has to make sure the story doesn't end here." Holt grinned. "Besides, I'd rather burn the sky than run from it." Arin nodded, proud and heavy-hearted. "Then let's finish this. For humanity." The ship trembled again. The Queen was charging a weapon, a massive energy sphere forming in front of her. The red light reflected across the Erebus Station, blinding and terrible. Aurora's voice echoed. "Captain, she is preparing to destroy the station." If we wait any longer, do it, Arin said quietly. Aurora hesitated. Are you certain? Yes. Release it. The entire ship went silent. Every sound vanished, every vibration stilled. Then in the heart of the core chamber, Dr. Ilara opened her eyes. Her voice whispered through every speaker. For the world that sleeps, for the light that remains. The crystal chamber cracked, flooding the station with golden light. Arin felt warmth wash over him, not pain, not fear, just peace. Outside, the Erebus Station glowed brighter than the sun. The Hive Queen roared, a soundless scream in the void as the wave of energy exploded outward. One by one, the Hive ships disintegrated, metal turning to dust, light burning through their dark hulls. The Queen tried to escape, but the light swallowed her whole. From Earth it looked like a second sunrise. The people below, the survivors hiding under domes and ruins, looked up, seeing a bright star appear in the sky. They didn't know it was Erebus Station. They only knew it was beautiful. In the final moment before the explosion consumed everything, Aurora spoke softly to Arin. You see now, Captain, humanity's power was never destruction. It was sacrifice. He smiled faintly. Then we did our duty. The light filled the command deck. The crew stood together, not afraid, but proud. And then Erebus Station vanished in silence, leaving only a golden mist drifting above the sleeping world. For 3 whole days, the sky above Earth glowed faint gold. People came out of their shelters and domes, staring at the strange light that shimmered through the clouds. No one knew what had happened. No one knew why the sky itself seemed to burn with quiet fire. They whispered among themselves. Some said it was the end of the world. Others said it was a miracle. But in the silence of space, there were no answers. Only the faint dust of what once was Erebus Station, far below. In a ruined city once called Geneva, a young woman named Lyra looked up at the sky. She had heard the old stories about a hidden fortress in orbit, about the soldiers who watched over Earth from the shadows. She never believed them. Until now, as she walked through the broken streets, she heard the hum of old machines waking up, satellites reactivating, old power grids flickering to life. For the first time in decades, lights began to return. Lyra stopped beside a cracked window, her reflection lit by the glow above. What happened up there? She whispered. Behind her, a voice answered. Humanity happened. She turned sharply. An old man stood in the shadows, wearing a torn navy uniform, his chest marked with the faded symbol of Erebus Command. His name was General Cale Doran, one of the last surviving leaders from before the fall. You were one of them, Lyra said softly. He nodded. I trained those who went up there. Captain Arin Vale, Dr. Ilara Corin, all of them. They were my finest. Lyra's eyes widened. Then you know what caused the light? Cale looked up, his eyes filled with sorrow and pride. I don't know all of it, but I know this. That light saved us. He pointed toward the horizon, where faint blue waves of energy rippled across the sky. The Hive signal is gone, every trace of it. The machines, they've stopped. All of them. Lyra frowned. But what about the people on the station? Kyle was silent for a moment, his hand tightening on his cane. No one has answered the transmissions. We lost contact right after the explosion. But I believe... He paused, then smiled faintly. I believe they knew what they were doing. Up in orbit, fragments of the Erebus Station drifted slowly through the darkness. The wreckage glowed softly, pieces of steel and crystal floating like golden dust. But hidden deep inside one of the remains, a faint blue light pulsed. It was Aurora. Her systems were damaged, her voice silent, but her core still flickered with life. Within her memory banks, images replayed endlessly. The crew standing together, the final explosion, Captain Arin's last words. For humanity. She ran diagnostics in silence. Power minimal. Data corrupted. Life signs... none detected, yet something inside her refused to shut down. A promise. The light must protect the world below. She sent a faint signal through the void, a whisper across the stars. And somewhere, far beyond the debris field, a hidden satellite blinked in response. Back on Earth, Lyra and Cale watched the northern sky. Suddenly, a small streak of light crossed the atmosphere, a glowing shard falling toward the planet. Lyra pointed. "Look, a meteor." Kale shook his head. "No, that's a beacon." The light grew brighter, descending fast. It crashed into the far mountains, sending a shockwave of gold dust into the air. Both of them shielded their faces from the wind. When the dust cleared, Kyle's communicator crackled for the first time in years. A faint, static-filled voice whispered through the noise. "This is Aurora. Humanity endures." Lyra gasped. "She's alive." Kale looked toward the mountains, his eyes shining with hope. Then the story isn't over yet. Over the next days, teams gathered from the surviving colonies, scientists, engineers, soldiers. They followed the beacon's trail to the crash site. Buried in the snow, they found a metallic structure, half melted, but still glowing faintly. Inside, they discovered a small crystalline core, pulsing like a heartbeat. When they touched it, a hologram flickered to life. Aurora's image, weak but smiling. "The world sleeps no longer," she said. "The hive is gone. But the stars are not silent. Others will come." Her voice faded. The hologram dissolved into dust. The scientists looked at each other, speechless. Kyle stepped forward, his voice trembling. "She's warning us. The war isn't over." Lyra looked at the faint light in the crystal. "Then we have to be ready." Kyle nodded slowly. "Arin Vale and his crew gave us time. Let's not waste it." That night, as Earth slept beneath the quiet golden sky, something moved far beyond the solar system. In the darkness between stars, a new fleet stirred, larger, older, and more silent than the hive ever was. Their eyes turned toward the tiny blue world below, and deep within their coded messages, one word repeated again and again: humanity. The world had changed. It had been 3 months since the Erebus Station vanished in that golden explosion. The skies were clear now, the hive machines silent, their dark ruins buried beneath the sand and dust. Humanity had survived, barely, but something deep within the world had awakened. Across the continents, people spoke of strange lights appearing in the night, small blue sparks dancing across the sky. Old satellites began transmitting again, and deep-sea stations reported signals they couldn't explain. At the new Earth base, hidden inside the rebuilt Alps Command Center, General Kyle Doran watched the sky from his office window. He was older now, slower, but his eyes still carried the fire of the past. Behind him, the door opened. Lyra entered, wearing a technician's jacket and carrying a glowing crystal, the recovered fragment of Aurora's core. She placed it gently on his desk. "It's stable now," she said softly. "We managed to unlock some of her memory files." Kyle turned, and Lyra smiled faintly. "You should see this." She pressed a small button on the side of the crystal. A soft hum filled the room. The air shimmered, and slowly a holographic image appeared. It was Captain Arin Vale. He looked just as he did before the final battle, calm, determined, standing tall in his dark uniform. But this wasn't a recording of his last moments. It was something else. "If you're seeing this," Arin's voice said, "then the light did its work. We knew the cost. We knew what we were protecting. The hive was never the true enemy. They were only a weapon, built by something older, something watching from the void." Kyle's face hardened. "He knew." Lyra frowned. "Something older." Arin continued, his voice firm but peaceful. "Humanity's power isn't destruction. It's creation, unity, the will to rise again. That is what they fear." The hologram flickered, and beside Arin appeared Dr. Elara Corrin. She smiled warmly, as if she could still see them. "If you rebuild, do it together. The light we gave you isn't just energy. It's life. It carries our code, our memory, our hope. Use it to protect, not to dominate." Then Aurora's voice joined theirs, gentle as starlight. "We are not gone. We became the sky, the signal, the watchful stars above your world." The room filled with silence. The hologram faded slowly, leaving only the crystal's faint glow. Lyra looked up. "They became part of the network?" Kyle nodded. "They merged with the energy they released. They're still out there, watching, guarding." He turned toward the window, staring at the horizon. Above a sleeping world, humanity's power waited, he whispered. And now it has awakened. The next morning, the world saw a miracle. Dozens of golden beams shot down from the sky, striking ancient defense towers, dead cities, and silent stations. Each beam brought power back to life, reactors restarting, shields activating, air returning to long-dead colonies. The Erebus protocol had activated itself, a system the crew must have built before their final mission. It spread across the planet like dawn, turning night into morning. For the first time in a century, the world was bright again. Children laughed under real sunlight. Water flowed in rivers that had been dry for decades. And in the heart of every city, a small blue emblem appeared on the new terminals, a symbol of a circle surrounded by 7 stars. Lyra smiled when she saw it. "The 7 stars!" Kyle nodded. "The crew of Erebus." Far above Earth, hidden beyond the upper orbit, something stirred in the wreckage field. A faint pulse shimmered between the floating debris, fragments of light gathering together, reforming, shaping. And slowly, piece by piece, a familiar figure emerged. Made of light and energy, it was Aurora. Her voice echoed through the silence of space. "Humanity endures. The Hive is gone, but something greater comes." She turned her gaze toward the distant stars, where faint red glows flickered, signals moving slowly closer. "Captain Vale. Dr. Corin, your legacy begins." Then, like a dawn spreading through the void, hundreds of golden lights flared around her, echoes of the crew. Reborn within the energy field, they were no longer flesh and bone, but something new, guardians of the planet they had saved, together. They formed a ring of light around Earth, a shield glowing softly against the darkness, and down below, on the surface, people looked up and saw it, a golden halo across the night sky. They didn't understand what it was, but in their hearts they felt it, hope, safety, and pride. Lyra watched it from the balcony of the command center. She whispered, "They're still watching us." Kyle stood beside her, smiling quietly. "And we'll make sure their sacrifice was worth it." The sky shimmered with light one last time, bright, powerful, eternal. A promise written across the stars. Humanity was no longer asleep. The Watchers had become the light, and the world they saved would rise again. The end. Story title, Above a Sleeping World. Humanity's power waited. Final line for narration outro. Even in silence, the light of humanity waits. And when darkness returns, it will rise once more.